Satisfied and independent, he performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Please repeat. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Purport. Srila Prabhupada. Actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness. One is doing everything for Krishna. A Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of the action. He is not even attached to the personal maintenance. For everything is left to Krishna. Nor is he anxious to secure things, nor to protect things already in his possession. He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. It is as though he were not doing anything. This is a sign of a karma, or action without the fruit of reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker. And that is the real aspect of karma, as explained herein before. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preparation. So, Prabhupada's given forgive me for I haven't given the Bhagavad Gita class in many years, so you have to forgive me, I'm a little rusty. In any case, Srila Prabhupada has given the perimeters for Krishna consciousness, the detachment from everything. Now, I remember back in LA when I first joined, I saw a lady with a dog. So in America, you got to have a leash for the dog. But who's who's really in control? It's a dog. Because the dog is running and the leash is attached to the master. The same thing, all our possessions. If you're attached to a house, any possessions, you're in possession of the house, or you're in possession of any kind of attraction that you have. So, a person in Krishna consciousness has no attractions for anything material. So you give it all up. So, who in this movement is able to do that, actually, to give up everything? House, home, family, friends, society, and really surrender everything to the Lord. Now, we have in our special departments here in Krishna Balaram Temple, as I hear, many side actions are going on. And you can't digest Prabhupada's blood. So that's the one thing that we have to be very careful of. It's just, when I joined the movement, it was like you go out in Sankirtan, and you collect a whole bunch of money, you sell the books, and you give it all, 100% to Krishna. Now it's a little different, 10% to Krishna, 50% to me. Or 50% to Krishna, and I'll take 50%. So it's not the same anymore. I mean, unfortunately, the years go by and the difference is evident, new devotees come to our movement. I remember one time in LA, it was in Mayapur. One sannyasi was walking out the front door with a briefcase. And Prabhupada was on the veranda. He shouted, "Stop that man, stop that devotee." And so Tapamoya ran as fast as he could to the front gate and grabbed the man. I won't mention his name, but the briefcase broke open, it was full of $100 bills. And so there was this goes on. I mean, you try to drink Prabhupada's blood, and that's the energy of any movement, anything within our movement that is like, we have our attachments. I'm a very attached person. I'm attached to my service. I'm attached to reading. It's like sense gratification for me to read Prabhupada's books. I listen to Prabhupada all day. Now, the problem is with that is that you get to a point where you can't listen to anybody else. Because Prabhupada is so refreshing and so full in everything he says that ultimately it doesn't leave room for anything else. So I'm ruined in that way. And I'm just so attached to Vrindavan. It was in this other room that when I first came here, I didn't know which way to go. I was being pulled into Vrindavan. Artists joined the movement. He's attracted to different places, but Jaivataka was pulling me to Mayapur. So I asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, okay, what should I do? I just got here. I just brand new devotee here. We were 2 years in LA before that. But when we got here, my wife and I were just enamored with Vrindavan. This is the place. There's nothing higher than Vrindavan for everybody. Anyway, so Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, listen, I think we gave a big donation to the Prabhupada's house at that time. I cashed in my life insurance policy, and that money we brought here, got us here. We gave everything to the temple, to the Prabhupada's house. Prabhupada was here. And so Tamal said, okay, at that time, if you gave $1,000 or more, you got darshan. Did you know that? Tamal had arranged this little thing that if you make a big donation, you could get to see Prabhupada. So, he's got that energy that he can make money no matter what. Anyway, so I didn't know that. We gave the money, and next morning, we're staying up in room 19. And so there was a knock on that door. And I answered, and Srila Prabhupada, the messenger came up, Suradas. Prabhupada wants you immediately. You come down to his room immediately. Oh my God, what have I done? So, we just got here. Now suddenly Prabhupada wants me, and I put on new clean clothes and went down, had showered, and came into this back room. And so Prabhupada was in that far corner, just outside the garden. That's where he took prasad, in that corner. And so when I paid my basis into the room, it was full of sannyasis and GBCs and high-powered individuals. The energy in that room was just pulsating. And of course, Prabhupada's energy had surpassed everything. And so his energy was like, breaking the boundaries of the material world. And so I was introduced by Tamal to Prabhupada. This is my first introduction. And Tamal said, here's your Bhaktisiddhanta Das. And the whole room started cracking up. They thought it was the funniest thing they ever heard. Who's this guy with this name? Anyway, so I'm lying on the floor looking, at the floor. And the big laughter was going on. So I looked over at Prabhupada. And so when I looked at Prabhupada, there was a big smile on his face. He illuminated that whole room over here. I mean, usually the effulgence was just, small around the head. But this day it was like, it illuminated the whole room. And this big smile and that big missing tooth in the front was like mind-blowing. And so, actually, Tamal went on with it that I was a diorama maker with faith, making a change in bodies so many times. I made it 3 times. Model. And Prabhupada looked at the model, and it was being told to Prabhupada by Bhargavath, our leader. He says, would you like that for your room? And Prabhupada looked at it, and summed up the whole philosophy in 2 words. My room? So he wasn't attached to his rooms. He didn't have to know he wasn't his body, or the body changes, so he didn't go further with it. In any case, I made it 2 more times, full size. It was in the museum. Then Jayananda and Mukunda and a few others had a meeting. They called me in to tell me to make it again, because it couldn't be seen by the photographer. They wanted to take a picture to make it known all over the world. And so, okay, couldn't say no to Jayananda. And so the emblem of devotional service, a saint right in our midst that you can't say no to. So I made it again. And it was just like, just every time I made it, I nearly died, because the time you come around to the end of it, you get empowered by, the material energy, and you nearly die. It happened twice. So the model was made. It was taken up on a mountain in LA, and the sunrise was required. And so the guy took the picture, and he promised to be in all the major magazines in the world. And it happened. That change in body display became famous overnight. It was on the annual photography centerfold of that year. So, in any case, we're talking about attachments and about devoid of attachment. And so, if anybody within our grip, within our temple structure is taking money, ultimately it's a sure degree that he will definitely be kicked out of the movement, or will find a lot of suffering. So, I mean, I'm told these things, that a lot of this goes on within our own, it goes on in temples around the world, because we come here for the shower, we get cleaned up, and the whole idea is to be detached. I had a big St. Bernard dog, and I talk about the deer attachment, Bart Maharaj. I had a big dog. It's like a small horse. And so St. Bernard is like very lovable, very big, and fuzzy. It carries around a keg usually, saves people in the mountains. And so that dog had no leash, although there was a restriction in the town. It must be under leash at all times. This dog was running all over the town, and it had if there's any problem, call this number, and it was always getting calls from the animal shelter, and there was the dog being catched by dog catchers. Anyway, the biggest attachment I had was for that dog. And I would join this movement before, called the Gurdjieff movement. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but it was a big movement in the West, Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. This is my prelude to devotional service, to be trained by a female guru who was in charge of the ashram. Okay, I'm talking about attachments and how I got through it. And so she divided me from that dog. She kept the dog. And so the first day I had to leave the dog there and drive away. That dog started chasing me in the car, and I just looked in the rearview mirror and I saw him finally, just back off, and it wrecked my heart, for a while. And so deep attachments we get. Okay, that's just for a dog. Now what about everything else that we have? So deep attachments keep growing. For grihasta to move, you really understand what detachment means and how attached we are. Because it just accumulates, it just covers up, just piles up without even, Shri means attachment and expansion, so then when you're married, ultimately it's just like it grows up over your head. When Prabhupada assigned the Bhagavatam to be done by Prajuna, and so when I went down to see him, he was staying in a room in Prabhupada's room down at the Radha Damodar. He had 14 trunks of books, and they were piled up so high. He was sitting, when you looked in, you couldn't see him. So his attachment was books. And so we all have something. And I'm still so strongly attached to these things, like prasadam. I mean, I was swayed me completely. That was the key to make successful Krishna consciousness. So prasadam, it's the whole program. It's like swimming in an ocean of nectar. And Prabhupada was asked once, why some people have an aversion to all this when it's so relishable? And so Prabhupada said, well, he told Satsrup Maharaj, well, some people are brand new in this. Some people come from many lifetimes. But some people swim because it's just their natural instinct to be Krishna conscious. There's just a little bit of covering. You take away that covering and strip off everything, and then suddenly they're full-on devotee without any problem. When we joined in LA, Jadharani was our head artist, and so we joined the art department because Prabhupada heard an artist had joined in Miami. And so after 1 week I was flown to LA and we joined the painting department. CC books were just underway. They just started the marathon to get those books out in 17 weeks. And so the artists were going frantically trying to prepare themselves for a system of how to make it happen. So they were copying from old master paintings and taking, out of Durya prints, taking Christ out and putting in Lord Chaitanya, and doing so many funny things. Taking a model, photograph the model, project the image on a canvas, and tracing off and painting directly off the photograph. So many things to make it happen fast. So, and copying other artists' work and putting their own name on it, or making it, making it plagiarism was there also. So there was one book of Indian prints, and a lot of the paintings we see in CC came right out of that book, copied directly out of that book. So I made an uproar, because when I went to college, I went to an art school. It was very difficult to get through. Out of 600 students, I was one of 5 who graduated. And so one of the things that was intolerable was plagiarism. You can't identify someone else's work with your own. And so they were doing that. So in any case, I was staging my objection to some of the system. There was a better way. And so Gauri, Dasi, and Jadharani, and everybody came up against me because they had a system. And that was the way that was going to be. It was in play, and that was going to be how it went with this whole CC. It's okay. So I was told to make a print, make a painting, and everybody had to go through this, do a painting of Radha Krishna embracing together. And it was like a standard thing that everybody did to join their painting department. And so the Rameshwar solos were $1,000 each, and that was his money maker. And so I was working on it, and Rameshwar had bought me a pair of glasses because my glasses were stolen before I joined the movement. And so he come into the room, and I'm painting with two hands. I'm throwing color onto this canvas, and I usually do that to get to it, to finish fast. No glasses. I'm just painting on it. He looks like a blind man painting an abstract painting. Rameshwar saw this. He backed out of the room. He walked away. There's no hope for this guy. And so I was transferred to Fate. That was my fate. You become a member of the sculpture department of Fate. So I finished the painting. It was more realistic than anybody else had done. And so when it was too late, Rameshwar made a decision. And there was an Estagosi, and in that Estagosi, he asked my opinion on one of Muralidar's paintings. And I said, well, first off, I gave a whole list of things that were wrong. And Rameshwar said, I don't know anything about painting, but I know what I like, what I don't like. Anybody agree with this? And nobody said anything. The next day I was moved to Fate. So I never got a chance to paint for Prabhupada's books. I used to think, oh my God, these devotees they're so fortunate. They can sit and listen to Prabhupada all day long, and they can paint for the Prabhupada's books. And what could be more advantageous in your Krishna consciousness? To be engaged. And so in this purport and in the sloka, the whole idea is how to be a detached person in Krishna consciousness. Well, the answer, of course, is to be fully engaged and not to have anything else in your peripheral, so that whatever you do, you engage perfectly full-time and your hand is guided. Ultimately, you become an instrument in Krishna's service. And that's the key. That to do it as purely as you possibly can without ever introducing your own individual whims. And we have many artists who are whimsical and they just do so many crazy things. I'm working now for the Mayapur Planetarium Temple. And so my boss is Bhavananda, and he's the Acharya, the whim Acharya. And so everybody jokes about him. My whim is to do this and do that. I'm not in charge, but I know what I want, and this is the way it is. Okay, so to be detached, it means to do whatever you have to do in this frame of mind, that stuff will start coming out that doesn't even look anything like what you did before. In other words, I've been on the altar here 36 some years, and so every day it's something different. And every day there's some better way to do it. There's a way to perfect the service and make it better. That's detachment. It's to open up to the flavors of Krishna consciousness who are unlimited. When people give classes, and I listen on these, every night I listen to Bhagavad Gita and I get Bhagavatam on the radio. Now there are devotees that give side views, front views, back views, overviews on what Prabhupada has written. There are books written about so many Prabhupada's books, and it was very simple, like Nectar Devotion, very simply made. And it's just so sweet. It's just Prabhupada, and it's Prabhupada's first books, those three Bhagavatams, I got a couple. And it's so sweet the way Prabhupada expresses himself, and it just comes across very crystal clear. There may be some problems with grammar and English, but you overlook that. He's speaking himself, and these are his ecstasies, and so he's speaking from his heart. And it's Krishna working right through him. So, the answer to all of this is that we simplify, eliminate, and get down to the basics, and actually Krishna will speak through us. And so, by doing that, we overlook all the material elements, and you just give up as much. I had so many material things. I gave up the studio I gave away so much stuff. I had a car, I gave it away. I had a bicycle, somebody stole that. So now I walk. The shoes I walk in don't fit right, so I gotta almost go barefooted. And so what I say is that ultimately Krishna consciousness is like Jayananda's example of how to be so detached that you don't want anything for yourself. Nothing could be further away than to try to get something really nice for yourself, nice food. Of course, we're supposed to be detached. Okay, we give up the 4 regular principles. So no meat eating. Now if you take coconut and you shred it and you fry it, it tastes like bacon bits. You take tofu, you make a steak out of it and you wouldn't know a difference. And you take tofu and it comes in hot dogs and sausages and Italian sausages and hamburgers. You get all of that stuff now in tofu and gluten assimilation. I gave a feast for all my relatives one of the years I first got back in my hometown. It was a meatless, karma-free meal, and there was meatless balls, and there was like macaroni, and there was like all this hot dogs, hamburgers, and everything else. And so everybody ate that, and nobody said a word until I told them later there was no meat there. Oh, I knew there was something different. Yet they're so attached to the system that my mother instructed my sisters how to cook, and that it had to be this way and no other way. So all the meat was involved, and just the whole thing was disgusting. When I was a kid, I was 3 years old, and I wondered, well, how I got here? Who are these people that are my family? I don't even know who they are. Why am I in this body? I had all these questions. I'm 3 years old, and they tied a rope around me and staked me. And so I had 20 feet, freedom. And that was my world, 20 feet across the backyard. And my father had rabbits. He was raising rabbits, so we were being trained to be rabbits. I had to go out and collect greens out of the garden, and so at any rate, I grew up in that kind of framework under duress that you got to eat this stuff. So after a while, you succumb to it, and then association is everything. So what do? As soon as I had a chance, I left the house and joined the Navy, and right out of the fire out of the pen into the fire. Now, bad association is probably saying it lightly what's in the American Navy. The bunk above me was a guy who was like 300 pounds. So we got in his bunk. I couldn't move because I was right underneath him. There was only about that much space between him and I. And then when you hit a port, of course you're seasick most of the time. Then when you finally get to a port, we did a Mediterranean cruise, so we're on the French Riviera, the Italian Riviera, and going ashore meant only one thing, and everybody just got so stinking drunk. And they get tattoos all over them. Now just a couple days ago, a devotee came to me covered in tattoos, and he's going to open a tattoo parlor in Vrindavan. I said, please, listen, he has a guru tattooed on his arm, the Rai Maharaj. We tattooed him on his arm. Poorly done, poorly drawn, and it's the worst, the bottom line in terms of art. If there's anything degrading, it's tattoo art on a person's body. And so for devotees to do that, it's just disgusting. So in the Navy, these guys, they pick out tattoos, and then they come back later stone drunk and have it engraved on their body. There was a guy, I saw it. He had Mary, Jane, crossed out. He had a whole list of names of women that he was friendly with, and he had them all crossed off. And so people do these stupid things to their body. So I told that boy, I said, listen, if you can, what's done is done, but don't, please, I'm praying that nobody does that in Vrindavan, a tattoo parlor. And we got meat and alcohol being sold, just within the perimeter of our temple. It's going on, it's there. And so all we need is a tattoo parlor to make it complete. So Vrindavan is making a progressive change, of course. We're seeing things getting worse and worse. So the bottom line here is that to avoid all this material stuff and to be very careful about what we take in terms of what we maintain ourselves with, and to steal from the temple. I just put this out and I hear this is going on within most of our departments, that people are, the bakery department and there's little pilferage going on. That Prabhupada, you cannot digest Prabhupada's blood. So if it's going on, anybody's guilty of bank accounts with brahmacharis. How can a brahmachari have a bank account? But across the road, the Allahabad Bank has got brahmacharis with bank accounts. So this is going on, and it went on in the very beginning, and it goes on to this very day. And so people who are trying to detach material and take up a life of sin within the movement, it's crazy. I mean, to be doing something that is unlawful and trying to be Krishna conscious is like the elephant. So why do it? Now, why get involved and do something that's going to destroy your spiritual life? So the opposite is true. If you begin to see detachment as the key, so then you won't accumulate. And you give it away as fast as you can. Prabhupada had, in the morning you get it, and by afternoon it should be gone. 50% for books, 50% for temples. Don't keep any bank account. Bank account attracts thieves, it attracts taxes, and it attracts nothing but hoarding, and it just derides any kind of spiritual life. So Prabhupada was very strong about that, as you know. I mean, there was no bank accounts to be kept, just spend the money. And he's telling Rameshwar, if you don't spend, and then they're collecting, he says, okay, he's going to make a business selling records. He was thinking then, of course, that Golden Avatar had a change in bodies, or it was a Change of Heart album he started to sell. And so he thought he was going to make millions of dollars selling records, because people buy more records than books. So he's saying to Prabhupada, with that money, maybe we can do some prasad distribution. Yes, do that. Here, in India. So there was another means by which to bring money to India and to feed the masses. So I think it never happened. Change of Heart album didn't go that far. In any case, Prabhupada set the pattern. That then we have one Prabhupada godbrother, and you may remember the story. He was cooking for the devotees here, but before I got here. Yeah, I won't mention his name. But he was Prabhupada's godbrother, and he was stealing from the kitchen. And Prabhupada caught him. He was up in his room, and he looked down, and he threw him out, his own godbrother. So you can't digest Prabhupada's blood. So if you're in a habit of taking, like some people are kleptomaniacs, and they can't, it's just a passion, they have to steal. It's just something they get off on. And so if you have to steal some maha. There was a story in New Vrindavan. I like these kind of classes where you get realizations and things that come to your mind. It's just meaningful. So there was a big theft going on in the maha cabinet. They stashed all the maha in one place, and they locked it. And so somebody had the key, was able to pick the lock, and was stealing all the maha. Now that's legal. And so if you want to steal, you have to do it somehow or other. You have to do it. And steal a little maha, it's okay. Not a lot, but a little bit's okay. Anyway, this person was stealing a lot. So they put this big fat lady inside the cupboard. And so when he opened it up, he had to marry that girl. So the guy that got caught with the maha was now marrying this big fat lady. So be very careful if you're going to steal maha. Make sure where you're stealing from is not somebody in the cabinet. In any case, Krishna consciousness is like swimming in an ocean of nectar. Now, I can't understand why people get fed up and leave the movement or leave Vrindavan. And I met one devotee here years ago. He was supposed to get sannyas, and somehow we're butting on to cancel Prabhupada's idea for giving him sannyas, and didn't get it. And he was here, and then he was deciding to go back to London. Okay, so I told him we're sitting out in this, where now is like just packed solid. Now it was outsulated, just a little bit outside, a little bit, just a couple blocks away was nothing. And so so I'm going back. I said, be careful, Prabhu. It's not easy to get back here. You go to Vrindavan. When you leave Vrindavan, you're going back to London. Be very careful. So he goes back. He gets locked up for drug possession, selling drugs. In the end, he hung himself in the jail. So it's very difficult, to maintain in the material world. So the best thing is to rely on Krishna 100%. If you do that, that's what this whole chapter is all about. How to break attachments and how to get away from being swept in the material ocean. The pool of nescience is like, so deep. Maya is very strong. So there are many ways that we get attracted. Now, when I open my computer, I get this Yahoo News. So right now, this week, the special week in Cambodia and some of these countries, it's a dog week. This is the week when they kill all the dogs and eat the dogs. And so this is going on right now. This is one week in the year's events in one country. And so it's like, the news is so crazy. They just discovered that the Big Bang theory is outmoded. That it wasn't a Big Bang, it was something else. It was something, the gaseous expansion caused this thing to develop in a different way. So the evolution theory is like being thrown out by some scientist. And you read the news, it's just hilarious what happens in the material world. There's one the other devotee shows videos here about near accidents. So I saw one, this guy is talking to his motorcycle, and he's like, he's in Spanish. He's describing a motorcycle, he's trying to sell it to another guy. And so he steps away from the motorcycle, and this car comes running in and smashes the motorcycle. And he goes and smashes into another car and explodes. The guy's just like, this big explosion takes place. So karma is such a thing that if Krishna wants to kill you, then nothing's going to save you. So if Krishna wants to save you, that's a wonderful song that they sing it, that Krishna will protect you no matter what. I've been cheated by so many people in Vrindavan. You can expect it. Vrindavan is a place where not everybody's pious. We have people here who are rogues, dacoits, scum of the earth, and they just come in and they, like Prabhupada said, it used to be that women would get dressed up in sannyasis in red cloth or saffron, and these bogus guys would come and put on saffron, pretend to be sannyas. They just to meet each other. And so it still goes on. You see a whole line of these guys dressed in saffron going for their japatis. So the cheating propensity is strong, and it's as strong here than anywhere else, because ultimately Maya is tested here because Krishna is so strong. So Maya has to be stronger. And when you take sannyas, it's been told by many sannyasis that Maya really comes down on you much harder, because now you've got to be sannyas. That means no more attraction to the opposite sex. And so the attractions are there. So it's not hard to, everybody, we hear so much about detachment and about attraction to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada set up a very sound system by which it's very easy to swim in this ocean. But the reason some people have trouble and walk away is because they're new to devotional life. And so it's not the first time they're in this spiritual framework. They come out of you see some people, there's one person who looks like a monkey, and there's another guy who looks like a rat. They got these faces. And so the face is the index of the mind. And so some people are inscribed with thousands of lines on their face. You see, the whole life of struggle and anxiety written across their face. So devotees don't have that. Like our cook in the Prashadam in the kitchen, Didi kitchen, when he died, there was no lines there. He was just smile on his face. And so that's what happens here. This is like Shangri-La. It used to be an old movie in 1939. Ronald Colman was looking for this paradise. And so my dear wife had a dream that she was going up through the Himalayas. And so behind her were a whole series of her friends. So they had to jump over a little gap in just a small pathway. And so by the time they got across, finally they did. Then there was a crevice and they walked in. They saw the Shangri-La. It means a paradise where people don't age. And so she walked in, and it was a devotee gathering. There was a ISKCON temple. And so there were the devotees jumping and shouting, Haribo, Haribo. And it was like, eternal youth. And so that's Krishna consciousness, if you're attuned to it. It's eternal youth. You don't age here. Unless you want to swim in the nectar of Maya and just be swept away. It's swept right out. So, in any case, she gets into the kirtan. Suddenly she sees her mother and father. So she goes, Mom and Dad, how'd you get here? And, we just parked our car and walked in the front door. Now, that's the whole thing about how you come to Krishna consciousness. It's either a struggle or it's so easy to walk in, you can walk right out. If you struggle hard, and you know how hard it is outside because of the struggle, you're not likely to move away. So ultimately the struggle in the material world is 1,000 times worse. So if there's any struggle within our movement, and there is, now there's authorities, problems, issues with different devotees, conflicts. And a story I've told before, but when I first joined it, I was told no ESP, you could read your mind. And so I asked Prabhupada, he was coming through the Fate Studios, and that was a whole adventure. So I asked Prabhupada, in my mind, Srila Prabhupada, what is going on in this movement? I thought I joined a spiritual organization, but there's backbiting, criticism, fighting going on just about every side. What is going on in this place? He looked over me, went like that, and moved his head back and forth. He read it. He heard the request. And so the answer I got back was, you'll see in a couple weeks. 2 weeks later, it got to be known that all of our leaders at that time, we had about 5 or 6 who were like in a high position. They weren't chanting. They just had their bead bags as decoration. So ultimately, it comes like that. It can be very easy. You can swim in this ocean of nectar, and it's like, swimming, there's no problems. There can't be a problem in Krishna consciousness. If you have one, you're making it. To be happy in Krishna consciousness means you're totally attracted to the spiritual world, to Krishna. And so if you are having troubles, you're not Krishna conscious. So it's very simple. It's very simple for the simple-minded. Very difficult if your mind is complex. To have overviews and side views and back views of something that's so simply given in Bhagavad Gita. I hear it here in different classes. Overview, explaining what Prabhupada said. Try to understand. Now, one devotee who started to do that. Try and understand. Now, when it comes from somebody else, it's just demeaning the Prabhupada. He could say it, because we didn't understand anything. But when somebody says it, Prabhupada here is trying to explain. He's trying to explain. Why is Prabhupada trying? It's like Prabhupada said, Krishna left Bhagavad Gita for somebody like, Ram Krishna, or that president, what was his name?
Dr. Radhakrishna.
Yeah, Dr. Radhakrishna. He left it for him to explain. He left something else from Bhagavad Gita that they didn't put into it. Even a friend of mine, he went to Prabhupada, and he says, Srila Prabhupada, your Bhagavad Gita is not complete. Oh, what's missing? He says, well, I'm working on one for the rickshaw wallahs, more lower level so that people can understand it. He encouraged me, said, go ahead, write it. He said, how much can you put in one book? Prabhupada said that to this guy. And a week later, he fell downstairs and cracked and broke his head and died. Now, I had 3 people cheat me in Vrindavan, and they all 3 died. And you know who they are. One was cheated you also. Yeah, so you got to be careful. I mean, if you're a cheater, you're not going to make it in Vrindavan. Cheaters have a short span here. So if you're serious about spiritual life, you want to make spiritual advancement, you've got full ample opportunity in Vrindavan. If you want to go the way, the crooked way, and be, cunning, get the high position, get sannyas as fast as possible, get a GBC status, just start initiating it, get a big demand behind you, and just control people's minds, and just get a big following. I want thousands behind me. And so that's what I'm looking for, power. I get power and prestige, and when I get that Maha plate, it's all mine. And so I'm attached to Maha. It was attached to reading Prabhupada books, attached to Vrindavan, attached to everything that we do in terms of devotional life. But attachments are fine. One devotee who was born here, Krishna Balaram Maharaj, said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm attached to my hometown. Well, that's okay. You're born in Vrindavan, so that attachment is okay. So, in any case, the bottom line here is that what we do, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what, but if we do it in the framework of giving this gift back to the Lord, because Krishna owns everything, He's created everything, there's nothing that's ours anyway. So we give it back in terms of service line, that ultimately it's just a beautiful connection. And Krishna is pleased with your endeavor. And if Krishna is pleased and Prabhupada is pleased, then certainly you're going back home, back to God in this life. And so we know that Prabhupada got the key to the back door, because a lot of us wouldn't make it in the front door. And so ultimately, I'm going to start showing some drawings. Now, the point I'm making here is that we are instruments. and the Lord's mercy that we are empowered to do certain things if we do it with our heart and soul. That if you do something to try to control it, ultimately you be controlled. So if you give up that controlling instinct and just completely surrender, okay, I'll just let it flow, just let it happen, and just be that instrument in Krishna's service, and be an instrument in Prabhupada's hands, and be well lubricated. In other words, keep your body fit, so you can do devotional service. And so ultimately, you can do amazing things. Now, what I'm going to show you may not be so amazing, but for me it is, because I'm not capable of doing these things. And from out there you may not be able to see all this, but I'm doing these drawings for the planetarium. Now in Mayapur there's 3 levels on that planetarium, and all 3 levels are like, in terms of it's traffic control. So they put one line of people going through fast, fast track, so they go right through. And I seen it, the whole thing, I've seen it, and they've seen it in the flash, they saw nothing. Okay, that's the general public. Then there'll be people who have interest and they want to see something more. So they'll see it a little more carefully, a little slower, and have access to a different understanding of the whole thing. Then there'll be the scientific group, and they're going to see it a whole different way with, in the theater. There'll be a full-on theater presentation in one section. It's going to be like a planetarium observatory, where you see stars and everything. Okay, that's a scientific approach. Now around the whole thing, 3 levels, and it's not in square feet, it's in kilometers. There's so much space. That temple dome, it's the biggest dome in the world, and it's going up now. So there's going to be a little trouble capping the thing, because they say they've got 20 or 30 feet, or anyway, it's going to be a little bit of trouble capping it, but anyway, they're working on it. So around the whole thing is the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Everybody read Brihat Bhagavatamrita? Many haven't, I guess. You read it. So anyway, it's a story. Narada Muni goes from Vrindavan, he goes to the spiritual world. And so also Gopal Kumar goes. Now this story is based primarily on Gopal Kumar's activities and his odyssey going back to Godhead. So Sanatana Goswami writes like pearls on a string, so beautifully, so well done. He takes you right by the hand and takes you through all these different locusts. And so as you go through it and you read the book and you see drawings, I'm bringing out a book, it's Kushakrata's rendition of Sanatana Goswami's, where he translated it. I got a couple hundred drawings working on it still. But these drawings are going to translate into dioramas. But some are very big. Some will be maybe like ball size here. And so people will go on this walking tour and go through and see all of these stories. And so Gopal Kumar goes from one adventure to another. Becomes Lord Brahma, becomes king of Puri. He gets all these different positions, Indra. And so Krishna is making this thing happen so that ultimately he realizes that ultimately it's his spiritual master controlling. It's Krishna disguised as a spiritual master. So this thing is being described. Now, Aditya did some editing, so she's already read the book. So anyway, I'll show some drawings now. And the only reason I'm doing this because I'm vain and I like to show my work off. No, it's not that. It's that I just want to give you a taste of what can happen, because I'm not capable of this. Ultimately, I can't draw like this. But I understand Prabhupada is working. He's doing it. He's composed the whole thing. And the dioramas and the whole planetarium experience will be so amazing that it'll just convince people around the world of Krishna consciousness in such a way that's very palatable and user-friendly. So, I'm going to show these drawings, and maybe you want to come a little closer, or let's see. Bhavananda. Huh? I can't hear you. He's there? Well, Bhavananda He says, I'm not in control, but he really is. He's sitting with Ambarish, and the control is evident. Okay, I'm just going to go through a little bit. I'll start with the front. And I'm going backwards. So at this point, he's arrived in Dwarka. This is Gopakumar, Krishna holding his flute. And here's Balaram and Uddhava. And so Krishna is sitting on his throne. He's starting to lose it. He grabbed the flute and asked Gopakumar, how are you doing? You know, he's and as soon as he sees the flute, he starts losing it. So you got to go to your private quarters. Okay, now Krishna goes to his private quarters with his 10,108 wives and their kids. And then the maidservants and their kids. And so, there's thousands and thousands of people going to Krishna's private quarters. So what's that like? You know, how big is Krishna's private quarters? Anyway, that's what this indication shows. Okay, I'm going backwards. Now, well, let me see if you look. Okay, so here he's seeing that ultimately Krishna is turning into, he's seeing, the Krishna in Dwarka is turning into this Krishna in Goloka. He's seeing the cowherd boys, he's seeing Radharani, he's seeing the transcendental vision of what he's seeing, something different was there. So, Gopakumar. Yeah. So this story is all his adventures. Just Gopakumar and where he goes and what he does. Okay, here. Okay, then there's a fight between the different Vishnu Dutas. And so some are saying you got to have by education, by knowledge. And then the other half saying, no, it's by devotion. And so there's a big controversy arises between the different Vishnu Dutas. There's a big heated discussion. And Gopakumar says, no, how's this happening? You know, what's the spiritual world? That shouldn't be. Okay, so now Gopakumar gets a chance. I'm going backwards now, so you're seeing the beginning to the end and come to the beginning. Okay, so he gets a chance to use the chamra and starts, he's serving Krishna. He's delighted. But somewhere lurks this thing about he's not totally satisfied. Okay, now he first meets Krishna and he just like, it's, let me look at this. Okay, this is when he's with Vishnu. Okay, so this is going backwards now. So first he goes to the Vaikuntha planets. Then later he goes to Dwarka and sees Krishna firsthand. Okay, so there he is, and he's being pushed, and the four-handed Vishnus are holding all four hands, holding him up. So remember, these are all going to be in dioramas. And okay, here's when he first comes into the scene, and okay, so let me look at it. Okay, so here he's running. As soon as he sees Vishnu, he's like, he finally gets to see him, because he's been waiting outside, going to different gates. And so finally he sees Vishnu, and he starts running. And so then they capture him and pull him back. And no, you're not supposed to do that. It's not the way you honor Krishna, Vishnu. So he's overwhelmed by the whole thing. And so here's Vaikuntha. Now, can you imagine describing Vaikuntha? I have no idea, but that's what I came up with it. So it's like a big palace, and Vishnu's situated in a very elaborate place. And around that are grihastas. And so they got their villages and they got their different places, and they're living in the Vaikuntha realm. So that's the way it is. Okay, so then going backwards, so now Gopakumar is being escorted through the gates. Now there's 7 gates that he goes through to begin with, and finally he gets to where he gets to the palace where he's like actually, he's in front of Vishnu. Okay, so he pays his obeisance to the doorkeepers, thinking they're Vishnu. So ultimately, they're not going to, and anybody coming to the gate, they also, same thing here. The first Yamaduta or Vishnu Duta comes in, he does the same thing, pays his obeisance, oh, my Lord, and they just don't want to hear it, So he does it so many times, but they're all Vishnu, they're all Vishnu forms. Finally he's told that Vishnu actually has this little tuft of hair, and that's how you recognize Vishnu. Now, isn't that amazing? That ultimately Vishnu is just recognized by a little bit of hair on his chest. Amazing. Okay, so he starts flying. He gets this ride on the flower airplane on the swan boat, and so he's moving his way up to the spiritual world. So he's going through different locusts. And as he's riding along, he passes different places. Goes by Shiva Loka, and goes by Indra's place, And so they're all encouraging him, keep going, keep going. Now, when he first gets the ride, he gets a chance to fly. So he's very happy sitting in the seat. He seems very content and enjoying like anything. The flight back, going back to Godhead. So it all starts in Vrindavan. He's kept told to go back to Vrindavan, and there he gets to meet a spiritual master, who is Krishna actually in disguise. And so things happen along the way, and what's happening here? Oh, this is going backwards again. This is Lord Shiva and Parvati. And so they're encouraging him and sending him back to Vrindavan. I should have gone the other way, but actually you get the idea. So here's a 3 version of what happens when you get attached or you do something wrong. So the gambling, and giving in charity, something that's already been given. And Bharat Maharaj, attachment to a deer, as we're hearing so much about now. So all this will be, these 3-part dioramas will be huge. It'll be like, maybe huge. Okay, so again we're meeting Vishnu, Lakshmi, and Kumaras. Kumar, and he's guided by Ganesh. So Lord Shiva's coming now, and Parvati, and Ganesh explains everything to Gopakumar. He doesn't know. And so here's more of it. So explaining the different realms of the world, as the spiritual world as being given here. So presented how some places are 4-headed Brahman, and there's 8 heads, and 32 and 48 and 100 million. And so can you get so many heads on one body? It's hard to imagine how to actually do that, how to draw it. Anyway, this is just a taste. The reason I'm showing is because I can't do this stuff. It's not in my realm, but actually...
The bottom one is called...
Oh. Okay, here comes Lord Shiva. He starts dancing in ecstasy. And the Vishnu Dutas come, and the Kumaras come. Okay, here's more Lord Shiva. Okay, he's introduced to Radhashyam. Well, this is how I spend my days. I sit in my little room, make all these drawings. So here's Lord Shiva's entrance and how he affects everybody coming in. So then these go back to the beginning when he's first in Vrindavan. He's starting to see things that, amazes him, the form of the Lord. And some parts of different planetary systems are like paradise. He starts seeing that. He's presented to Mother Bhumi, and she's presenting all mystic opulences and trying to convince him that this is the highest place. If you want mystic opulences, I'm the keeper of that. I have the key to any kind of mysticism you want. And so then all the different material planetary forms, water, fire, air, all that has got presiding deities. And so she's worshiping Varaha, Mother Bhumi. So he gets a spiritual body actually along the line. Because he's got that body, he can go anywhere. He's got his Gopal mantra. As soon as he chants a mantra, he goes to any realm he wants to go to. And so here's his spiritual master is actually Krishna telling him to go back to the spiritual world. So he gives him the ability to do that. So there we are, back to the beginning. So I just want to share that because to me it's overwhelming. First off, the book itself, the H.G.Bhaktisidhanta is so beautiful in its description. Sanatana Goswami writes with pearls on a string. And so I'm assigned to do these drawings so that they become dioramas. But in the context of doing that, I pray for Prabhupada's mercy, and it comes. It comes in a fashion that I never expected. And so if we do that, if we take this whole thing serious, but ultimately we're here for a short time. Every minute counts. So if we keep that in mind, and every minute just think of Krishna and just find some way or other to do that, dovetail everything else. And just plant a pathway so that you don't get caught up in all the Maya. And there's so much material stuff going on. People hungry. I just went to a wedding reception yesterday, and the people dancing, and they get affected by the bouncing music, and the prasadam is not so bad, it was okay, but it's just charming life. The weddings are the worst thing that can happen, I think. The weddings they have here, like guy comes on a horse, king for a day and slave for life. And they take it serious. They spend lakhs and lakhs and lakhs and run out of what, man? Your wedding was
They saved their whole fortune just so they can.
yeah. Well, I went to your daughter's function. That was amazing. They had pizza going on there too. So, any case, still, it was a mind blower. Yeah, it was good. Any questions? Any comments?